Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for stopping by as we do our recap. This is 4th and 9 to victory. I'm your boy, Fight on Kristen.
And I'm your co-host B Jinx. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. We have a lot to wrap up from yesterday's game, USC versus Georgia Southern. So we're gonna talk about some things we've seen. Thank you to everyone who joined our live yesterday, called in and commented. Thanks for everyone that subscribed, like, comment on our videos. We had a great time yesterday. Got some new friends, online friends that joined
Yeah,
and call
yeah, we
in.
did.
We were breaking down the game live as it's happening. We do that every Saturday for the USC game. So join us, join us, join us. We put a link in where you can call in, you can comment, you can talk to us and say what you're seeing in the game as we're breaking it down and we're watching the game, doing the live watch party. But B, we're gonna get right into it, man. Such a lot happened yesterday.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Definitely excited that we won the game. The final score was USC 59, Georgia Southern 20. It was the return of Clay Helton to the Coliseum. We were definitely victorious. Quite the interesting game as it stands. So first, we're going to just look at the stats from yesterday. Like I said, the score was USC 59, Georgia Southern 20. If we look at the total pass yards, Georgia Southern had 235, USC had 446. Rush yards, Georgia Southern had 142, USC 309. That's a total for Georgia Southern 377 yards. USC had 755. Of course, Maeva led USC in passing, had 412 yards for 4 touchdowns. Waymon Jordan led the way on the ground, 16 carries, 167 yards. His longest run was a thing of beauty. It was 36 yards.
Yeah,
Receiving, Makai Lemon. Makai Lemon led the team again, had 6 receptions, actually 4 receptions, but on the 4 receptions, he had 158 yards and 2 touchdowns, man. So Makai Lemon was definitely balling out. If we look at the defensive side of things, Eric Gentry led the team. He had 10 tackles. He did have 1 sack, and Anthony Lucas led the team in sacks yesterday, which is a good thing to see Lucas taking that next stride. He had 2 sacks. And so looking at the game and looking at the stats and the numbers, one thing here at 4th and 9 victory we like to do, we have a segment. We firmly believe that men lie, women lie, numbers never lie, but they can be misleading. What
right.
we mean by that is that if you just walked in your house and you seen this score, you would think it was total domination by USC, right? Just
Especially the
looking at the,
final yards. Especially the final
yeah,
yards. If you looked at the
yeah.
final yards, you would think it was total um, you would think that it was total domination, like you said. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that whole thing.
Yep. Yep. And so just looking at those numbers. And so that's what this segment is tailored to. It's for us to go in and analyze and see what we actually see on the games because sometimes the numbers can be misleading from what actually happened in the game, not only just with the score, just with the stats. So we're going to get into that first segment. So B, we're in the men lie, women lie, numbers never lie, but numbers can be misleading segment.
Right.
What stat points out to you either on either side, Georgia Southern or USC, that you think did not tell the full story of actually what happened yesterday in the game?
Well, the most glaring thing that stood out to me was Georgia Southern's rushing yards. That they only got what was it 100 and what was it 140 145 total rushing yards for Georgia Southern.
140, 142.
142. If you looked at that game, and and we were live at the time, um, Georgia Southern was gashing us, gashing our defense. You know, I think the difference. I think the difference is that the reason why it's misleading is because we did get in some sacks in the game and some TFLs, which took away from their total. But if you looked at that game, Georgia Southern rushed for well over 200 yards. That's the concerning thing for me. And it kind of started last week. We emphasized, or at least I emphasized that, hey, look, I wanted to see our defense get off to a faster start, not starting so slow. And they attacked the left side of the line for Missouri State. Well, this time around, Georgia Southern attacked the right side. So I'm thinking the right side of their offensive line was stronger, but they really gashed our defense on the ground. So that was the misleading part for me. What about for you, Chris?
For me, it's the rushing yards again from Georgia Southern total. We did have some sacks that lessened that, but
Right.
if you watch the game, I mean, every time Georgia Southern ran the ball, it didn't matter if it was the right side, left side, up the middle. I mean, especially up the middle,
Mm-hmm.
they were getting a push and they were getting 4 and 5 yards a pop. They actually had a running back on their team that averaged 14 yards a carry yesterday. And,
Right.
and it really didn't seem to matter who was running the ball for Georgia Southern yesterday. They were effective. And looking at the numbers, because we were looking at the numbers even in the game, right? And we're saying there's no way this is the total yards that they have on the ground.
I think at
Like
the time it was like 80 yards or something like that
they were saying
during the
50
game.
at one
It
point.
was
Yeah,
50, right?
yeah.
That was 50,
And
right?
then we had
You're
to
right.
go in and take out, the sacks because Gentry had 2 sacks. Fountain had a sack, Lucas had a sack, and
I think Lucas
those
had 2 sacks. Gentry had a sack and Fountain had a sack. Is what it was. Lucas had 2 sacks.
Lucas had 2 sacks.
Right.
Gentry had 1 sack. Yeah,
Right.
and Fountain had a sack. And
Right.
so you're looking at a good 20 to 30 yards of loss on there.
That's just in sacks
We
alone,
also
right?
did, and not only that, we did we got to give honor what honor is due. The defensive line and the linebacker and the gap integrity was not there yesterday. They were getting pushed around, but we still did make some
Mm-hmm.
negative stops in the run game, not just on the
Right.
sacks, but on the run game. A couple, but there were few and far in between. And just looking at those numbers, you would think we did a much better job against the run than we did. But those numbers are definitely misleading. We were gashed on the ground time and time and time after again, and they were doing it at will, like with no what's the word, resistance. Like they were
No
just like
resistance.
every time, and it didn't matter if they went left, up the middle, or right. They were
But
successful on the
Kristen,
ground.
Kristen, let me ask you a question. Would you say, and I understand that that is an area of concern, but would you say that the defense overall, as far as the yards balancing themselves out, and we're still talking about the misleading numbers, but isn't that what our defense was supposed to do? Get the sacks to kind of like off balance, kind of like offset everything. Okay, we did get gas, but hey, look, we're getting in the sacks, we're getting in TFL, so it doesn't look as bad. It may become an issue down the line, but so far, I can kind of see where our DC will be like, well, hey, look, we did our job, and I think we may be one of the top teams in the nation, or at least in the top 10 that's
Well,
leading the nation in sacks right now.
here's the thing about that. We're one of the only teams in the nation that has played 2 caliber teams that we've played, right?
Okay.
And so because it's more, if I'm a coach, it's more concerning with me that we're getting gashed on the ground by the teams that we're playing more than the success that we're having
Okay.
getting negative plays and sacks.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because when you get into Big Ten play and you get into those good teams, what does that look like if you can't stop Missouri State and you can't stop Georgia Southern on the ground? What does that
Mhm.
look like against Michigan, right? With better running backs, better offensive line. What does it look like next week against Purdue and even
Right.
Michigan State, who's gonna have big physical offensive lines, right? Illinois. What does that look like? And so that has to be cleaned up, and we'll get more into it because I don't. It's not a lack of talent issue. It's a lack of consistency issue with players being in the right spot doing what they're supposed to do and
Mhm.
gap integrity. But
Right.
we'll get to that. So we both on the same page where we agree in what we think the misleading stat was for yesterday's game. Moving on to the next segment. What was your play of the game? Offense, defense, whatever that you said. What do you think was the play of the game for you?
Well, I think, to me personally, my play of the game was the one-handed catch by the top receiver in college football, Jacoby Lane. The one-handed catch where you got pretty much a jump ball thrown by Malva in the left side of the end zone, and the DB was holding his right hand, and the umpire, excuse me, the referee had even thrown a flag for pass interference, but he stuck that big 5X glove up there, caught it with one hand. So, for me, that was my play of the game. The one-handed touchdown catch by Jacoby Lane.
And of course, that was going to be mine, and I already knew that was going to be yours. I think that was everybody's.
Right.
I think that was everybody's play of the game yesterday, especially with it's not being a close game. So there was no kind of plays that like change the momentum of the game or anything like that. So
You know what I thought you were going to say, Kristen? Well, I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say the touchdown run by Wayman Jordan.
Wayman Jordan. Nah,
I thought you were going to say that.
That we were up big, so it wasn't like it was game changing. It was nice, but that Jacoby Lane was nice. But so I went a different route because I knew you were going to say that Jacoby Lane, TD. I think everyone would say that that catch was beautiful. I'm actually going to go with my play of the game from an offensive lineman, Justin Tuina.
Oh, okay. I know which play you're talking about.
Justin Tuina. We were running a screenplay to Eli Sanders on the right side, and Justin Tuina came out there, and I mean, he depleted the defender. You can hear the thump. It was beautiful, man. He put him on his backside. He came around that right corner on that screen and cleared the way.
Cleaned him up. He cleaned him up.
He depleted him. He depleted him. A lot of people don't give the offensive line, the pretty stuff, right? Because they're in the trenches. But I seen that, and to me, that's the play of the game, because that's the type of play you want to show when you're watching film with the team and offensive line, to get your people crunk and their points and let you know you appreciate and see them. But it was beautiful, man. He came around there and he depleted him. So I'm gonna. I knew you was gonna go with Jacoby Lane, so I was like, well, let me get me something else, and that's another play that stuck out to me. So I'm gonna give my play of the game to Justin Tuina, the block on the screenplay.
Yeah.
All right. We got one more segment to go before we get into our first, second, third, and fourth down. So our next segment we're moving into is a segment we do here. And since we love to dissect football, analyze football, looking at the game from a schematically wise, personnel wise, from a coach's mentality, we have a segment here we do that's called Never Accept Anything in a Win That You Wouldn't in a Loss. Basically, what we like to discuss is what have we seen from the team, particularly in yesterday's game, that even though we won, is not acceptable. It's something that we will harp on with our players, that we think the coaching staff should address with the players to be cleaned up, so that when we get into divisional play and get into Big Ten play, that these plays and these issues, these concerns, these things don't cost you your game in a one possession game or when the game is on the line. So never accept anything in a win you would in a loss. B, what did you see yesterday? What was something that you seen yesterday that needs to be cleaned up ongoing, that you deem unacceptable and needs to be corrected?
Definitely. The penalties we've started to accumulate with the what is it, hands to the face mask.
Yeah, a few times.
Defensive line for some reason are coming in with what I call high hands. So when they come in with high hands, they have a tendency to slide them up and push them underneath the offensive players' face mask, and to the point to where they push them off. So that costed us. I think we got hit with that twice on yesterday, and maybe even one time on last week. So those penalties could cost us, in a tight game, and to where if we have a team in 4th and 7, third and 7 or 3rd and 9, and we mess around and get to the quarterback, but then you see that yellow laundry on the field, and then the next thing you know, hey, look, they're calling a penalty on one of our defensive linemen for a face mask infraction. So we definitely got to get that cleaned up. I'm sure Coach Noah, Coach Henney will get that cleaned up. We'll address that in practice, but it's starting to become somewhat of a habit now. So we're on game 2, and we already got 3 of those type of penalties. So that's why that's what I would never accept in a win that I wouldn't accept in a loss.
Gotcha. Definitely, we've seen teams get turnovers or get a stop and drives continue because of that. It definitely hurt you in big games. Mine is that's unacceptable that I can't accept is our Russian defense, especially with the 2 teams we're playing. If it happened week 1 and it didn't happen week 2, my concern wouldn't be as big as it is. But it happened a whole lot more yesterday. And when I say we were getting gashed on the ground, we were getting gashed on the ground. Like I'm saying 4 and 5 yards at will, and even bigger plays than that. The other thing would be it's just the gap integrity, man, which attributes to teams being able to run the ball on us, right? So a lot of times people are looking at it and saying, "Oh, defensive line." I'm saying what I seen yesterday, what I seen on film this morning. Last night I watched the game again. Once we got off our live, I seen a combination of defensive line and linebackers.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Defensive line was getting certain players were getting pushed back, right? We even seen it. We talked about it on live, and we seen a certain defensive lineman on his back.
Right. We're not going to call any names though.
Yeah, he was on his back
like he was laying flat on his back.
Like a roach, what I call a roach. When the roaches get on their back and their legs be,
right.
You know what I'm saying? And also I've seen a lot of times that even when the defensive line, they might not have been winning, they were getting a stalemate. The linebackers' inability to shoot the right gap and to make that tackle. Or it was a delay. It was a delay in them reading the play and getting there. That way the running back was running through the hole, and then the linebacker was meeting in when they was already 2 and 3 yards down the field. Right. So I would be harping on our rush defense, gap integrity, the miscommunications of our defensive backs, right? Because that's very big. We've seen that 2 weeks in a row now, right? Where it seems to be a miscommunication. We touched on it on the game. I watched it again. It was cover 3, and they had a bunch set, and somebody with their eyes in the wrong place did not get to their deep third like they were supposed to, right? Okay. And it looks like it's all on the safety, but that safety had Fitzgerald had rolled down, right? Kamari Ramsey was a safety on the other side. He went took the center field. The other corner took that deep third, which means we were in cover 3, and that corner was supposed to have that deep third over there. But they had ran a nice little bunch set, and they had 3 receivers come out at the same time and veer off, and it caused some confusion. But, we got to make sure everyone's aligned in what coverage that we're supposed to be in. So it's rush defense, gap integrity, miscommunications in the backfield. Offensively, the only thing that I can harp on, they played a great game outside of can't turn the ball over. We can't have those fumbles. We can't have a fumble, and we had 1 turnover worthy play, right? You can't roll right and throw back to the middle of the field at no point, right? You don't want your quarterback doing that. That was the one play we always holding our breath. The ball hit the ground. We thought it hit it. We thought it hit the defender's foot.
It looked like it hit the defender's shoe. It looked like that.
Right. But it all started with a bad decision. You can't be rolling right and throwing back across the middle field. That's football 101. That's football preschool. That's football elementary. That's never a good thing, no matter how strong your arm is. Especially if the person ain't wide open, don't do it. It's not a good.
Unless you're a special talent like Caleb Williams. Yeah, I would see him do that all the time. But like you pointed out on yesterday, our quarterback is not Caleb Williams. So you have to know your limitations.
But here's still why you shouldn't do it, because Caleb, that same habit, that's a bad habit, and that same habit Caleb Williams trying to do in the NFL, and it's not working. Right. But when you've done something over and over, it becomes a routine. A routine becomes a habit. Habits are hard things to break. So even then, we should have been the coaches, for his benefit, should have been saying, all quarterback coaches going to tell you that don't roll out the pocket and throw back to the middle field. It's a no. All right, we are on to our next segment. It's town. It's down. It's
Yeah.
time for our It's time for our down series. So here we go. 4th and 9 of victory. First down. Can't nobody beat us, so we're gonna win. We're gonna get the first down. So here we go. First down. First down for today is your impact player from the game, offense and defense that you
Okay,
seen yesterday on
my impact
USC.
right. My impact player from yesterday was none other than our leading quarterback, Mr. Jaden Maava, threw for 400 and what was it, 12 yards and 4 TDs. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he's improving the improvement that I've seen, the jumps that this kid has made from the last 4 games of the season up until now has been a total 180. Sure, he has some things that he has to clean up, but I've always said, we've always said that if we can get the Jay Marvel we saw in the second half of that Texas A&M game going forward, then we're going to be in pretty good shape. On the defensive side of the ball, my impact player of the game was Anthony Lucas, racked up the 2 sacks on defense. So those are my impact players for the game.
Man, and you got me on this one because I really didn't get a second person. I didn't think you was gonna go with my album. I thought you was gonna go with wide receiver. So I had my album too.
Right.
Um, definitely Maeva has played very well. And like you said, my main thing from last year is I always seen Tyler Maeva, and I will always stress that Maeva was one or two best decisions away from being a Heisman Trophy. And so the skill and talent was already there, and I knew what he had because I seen on field. It was just could he not make those 2 or 3 decisions that lead to turnover?
Mhm.
Just eat the ball, throw it away. We seen that
Right.
yesterday. But since you said my rival, I'm gonna go with Makai Lemon then as my impact player, just to not have the sake of redundancy here.
Right.
Makai Lemon looked very explosive yesterday. Um, I mean, he took a simple comeback route, made 2 defenders miss, you know, out the gate.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
uh,
Right.
so definitely, I'm gonna go with Makai Lemon as my impact player. Defensively, I figured you would say Lucas too. That would have been my first um, pick with Lucas, but since you already said Lucas, I'll go ahead and just change my pick on the fly. And it's really tough, and that's not a good thing, right? That it's tough to say outside of Lucas. I mean, he did have 2 sacks, but other than that, we had some players who had 1 sack, but we didn't have anyone who just consistently impacted the game on defense. Um,
I will say this, Christian. I will say this. I think that the Carlos Nicholson is improving also. I really like his play, his physicality, his ability to attack the ball. He showed me something different on yesterday that I didn't see from him on last season with his aggression and attacking the ball. So I will say that the Carlos Nicholson, I will if I had a second pick, it would be him.
well, I mean, he got an interception.
Right.
Outside of that interception, I can't think of another stat or anything that happened yesterday. So I can't give him my impact player. Right?
Okay.
That's one player,
That's
one
good.
play. When we're talking about impact, we're the totality of the game. So I was gonna go with Lucas because those 2 sacks were big. But since you said Lucas, I'll go on the fly. I'll go with Eric Gentry.
Okay.
He did lead the team in tackles. He had 2 tackles for loss, and he had a sack. Uh, I would like to see it flip that 8 tackles out of his 10 tackles, 8 tackles was for a loss or around the line of scrimmage. 10 tackles for a linebacker when they're 5 and 6 yards down the field. That's not what you want, but he still made those tackles and they were all solo. And
Right.
he did make some tackles uh, in the open field. His 10 tackles are actually solo tackles. So
Okay.
I'm going to give Eric Gentry my impact player defensively of the game yesterday. Moving on to Saturday. What did you see from the team that gives you optimism that we can be a playoff team this year?
The running game. I don't know, if that was one of your answers, but I think we got to let you go first on third and fourth down, right? But yeah, um, a lot of fans, had issues with Lincoln Riley's play calling and his unwillingness to run the ball over the past 3 seasons that he's been at SC. Something that he actually did when he was at Oklahoma, but his willingness to run the ball and commit to running the ball has really, I think, is going to be key for us going down the stretch. We always say that a lion never changes, or excuse me, a tiger never changes his stripes. But I do see Lincoln Riley somewhat trying to make that change. And if you know the team can't stop it, why do you assist them in stopping yourself? So I would say the running game.
Right? And of course, we do have the same thing for this week, but
Right,
I'm gonna look at it. I look at it from a little different perspective. Yes, first thing is it was the consistency in run play calling, and I feel the reason we're seeing it this year is so far the team has shown a consistency to be able to block
right,
run successfully. Right, I think a lot of the times last year, Riley got away from the call run game, and years before years before was how poorly the defense was playing, and we had to score every time we had the ball, and Caleb Williams was our best chance of doing that.
okay,
Last year it was more of that. Our run game was successful, but it wasn't consistently successful. We would break for 6 yards, 12 yards, and then the next 5 plays would be negative runs, and we'll be behind the stick. But this year so far, the team has proven to be able to run block consistently and not have negative plays in the run game. That's going to quickly make a air raid coach say, "Okay, all right, it's second and 12. I gotta throw." Right.
right, right,
So
right.
what I seen that gives me optimism is that the play calling, we ran it right with consistency with the play calling that they were called, that Lincoln Riley stuck with it. And secondly is that the offensive line consistently blocked well on the run.
Right.
We didn't take any negative losses on run plays. We consistently at least got 3 to 4 yards, and outside of that, we were breaking them big on the run game. So if we can continue that when we get to Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois, and we get into Big Ten ball, Riley's going to stick to the same way, right? But if we revert back to where the run game start getting inconsistent and we're down and behind the chains all the time, we might see the same play calling come back where he gets pass happy. But I think this offensive line, um, I know with pass blocking, we've seen some breakdowns, but I think this offensive line is going to be better than what we expected.
Hmm.
I think it's wild that coming to the year, all the talks was about the defensive line is going to carry this team and the defense is going to carry this team. And everyone was concerned about the offense and Riley. But it so far from what I've seen in the first 2 games, it's flipped. You know what I mean? But
Right.
we'll definitely see when we get to conference play if the offense is going to have to put up 35, 40 points. And if the defense is going to be able to stop the run. If we can't stop the run, it's going to be hard to put up those points because in Big Ten, they're going to run it, eat up the clock. We're going to have less possessions. So if we can't get off the field and we can't stop the run, it's going to be tough slating. The other thing that gives me optimism again is the lack of negative plays on offense. I love
Okay.
that. Right, we're not. We did have one turnover, but we wasn't taking sacks. We wasn't getting the running backs weren't getting hit in the backfield. That's great as well. And also, Jaden Miles' growth. It gives me optimism, man. And people saying, well, we'll see at Purdue, we'll see at Illinois. He hasn't been on the road. UCLA is not a true road game. All I'm saying
Mhm.
is you have Google, you have stats, you have your eyes. Go back to last year and look at every fourth quarter that JD Miles played in. He either led us on the game-winning drive or led us on a drive that sealed the game, and then the defense went in and closed
Right.
it out.
Right.
So he did it against Nebraska, he did it against UCLA, he did it against Texas A&M. Against
Mhm.
Notre Dame, he had those 2 interceptions. One should have been pass interference. The other was a fourth down. You can't take a sack. But also in the fourth quarter, he still had 2 touchdowns. Put his fourth quarter numbers up against any quarterback in the nation. Trust me, I did it, and you're gonna say, "Wow, this kid is his clutch. His numbers in the fourth quarter is awesome." So I JD Miles' growth gives me confidence as well that we can be a playoff team. All right, before we move on to third down, you got anything else on that, B?
Nah. Let's go ahead and get on with third down.
Third down. What did you see that gave you concern, if any, from USC? Offensive, defensively, coaching, it doesn't matter. What did you see yesterday in the game that gives you any concern going forward, if any?
Well, we're gonna let you take the lead on that one. That
All
way, I
right.
won't.
All right. Um, Last week I was saying it's not a concern. I was saying it needed to be fixed. But if it's happening 2 weeks in a row, I have to start being concerned, right? And it's the defense inability to not give up chunk plays.
Right.
It's the defense inability to not be able to stop the run against Missouri State and Georgia Southern when we have better, talented, bigger teams coming in. That's what they want to do is run the ball. And as we seen last year in Big Ten, they're going to do that. So it's not just the inability to stop the run. More importantly, it's our gap integrity.
Mhm.
Because as we seen against Michigan last year, we played good against the run for 3 quarters, but all they scores came off big long runs,
Right.
even in the first half. And then we stopped them. They got to the fourth quarter, last drive. Gap integrity was off, and excuse me, and we got gashed and we lost the game. And we're seeing it again this year.
Well,
Ryan came
well,
in as the linebacker coach, and he said, "We're going to be gap sound this year," which tells you he already knew, and what he's seen on tape is we had those issues. And from what I'm seeing from the first 2 games, it's not it's not fixed and there yet. So my concern would be the defense inability to stop the run, giving up chunk plays, bad gap integrity, and the miscommunications on the back end of our defense.
well. To be fair, last season we didn't have the depth that we have this season. To be fair, in
But
those big
depth
games,
has nothing. But depth has nothing to do with gap integrity.
it does when you're tired in the second half. Remember, we lost that Michigan game pretty much in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but go back
So
to the Michigan. Go back to the Michigan game and look at their first 2 touchdowns in the first quarter.
right,
You're not
right.
fired in the first quarter. They got gapped for
That's
two
true.
long
That's
touchdown
true.
runs in the first quarter. So your
That's
gap
true.
integrity has nothing to do with you being tired or
Well,
your depth.
what gives me concern is we were able to stop it on last week. It happened in the first 1 or 2 drives against Missouri State. Then it's like, especially after halftime, the coaching staff cleaned it up. What gives me concern is, like you said, it was against Georgia Southern, and it happened well into the second half. Same thing. So that gives me concern. What also gives me concern is our DBs not getting their head around to track the ball. In the first half, we got a pass interference penalty called on. I want to say it was on, who was it on? Fitzgerald? Was it on
Yeah, but he
Fitzgerald?
he, he scored a touchdown on it. The guy still caught it. Yep.
Right. So it was on that one, and then we had another penalty at the end, which I think was
Oh yeah,
BS.
that was
But
baloney. That wasn't
that
no
was
pass
BS.
interference.
But we got a couple back there. But our DBs getting their head around, and also I'm starting to see where we're giving them. I don't know what's going on. I don't know whether or not it's the assignments that's being called, but we're starting to give those receivers too much cushion. Now, I will say this: the receiver for Georgia Southern, what's his name, Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that he was a transfer from Auburn.
Yeah.
So the kid can ball. Now he also caught he had some big yardage against Fresno State on last week. So, he's no stranger to the end zone because he got into the end zone on last week. My concern is, hey, look, are we going to continue to have those miscommunications on the back end of defense, which is what you said, which was your last point before you close out your piece. But that's the biggest concern to me is our secondary getting our heads around and giving up too much cushion on the outside.
And see, this is why I'm not concerned about the cushion and why they're giving up the cushion because what you preference that with, right?
Okay.
The DB struggling to get their head around.
Okay.
We don't have no lockdown corner, right?
Okay.
So if we're talking about pressing, you're talking about getting beat deep, right? And
Right.
so if you don't have corners that can press and cover and play like that, you got to protect the big play. And a lot of times that's what Lynn is doing and why they're playing off. One is we don't play a lot of man. We do a lot of zone blitzes and things of that nature. So when you're playing zone, you're not pressing. You're zone when you're a zone corner, you're playing off because you're playing the zone. You need to be able to see what's in front of you. Pressing is
Right.
more when you're going man to man, right? And
Right.
but the biggest thing is, I mean, let's be honest. We were seeing it Saturday. We weren't able to get pressure with just four. So in
Hmm.
order for us to get pressure, we had to blitz. Right now for us, blitz is not a luxury; it's a necessity. And you want it to be the opposite. You want
Okay.
blitzing to be a luxury, not a necessity. You want to be able to blitz when you want to blitz, not because you have to get pressure. And so when you're having to get pressure by blitzing, if you play those corners up and press man, that corner better be able to hold his ground or he gonna get ran by. And so that's a lot of times why those corners are playing off is because it's all about trust. I don't think the coaching staff trusts that they can get up there and blitz and play man coverage and hold up. Mhm. All right, man. Any more thing on third down before I go on the
No,
fourth?
that's it. That's it. Let's go ahead and head on into fourth down.
All right, fourth down. Guess what? This is 4th and 9 in victory. We don't never punt. We always
Right.
go for it on fourth down. So we're definitely going for it. It is fourth down. All right. Your overall grade. Start with offense, defense, and then overall team grade. Um, okay, yeah, you took the first two down, so I'll take this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. You take the last one.
Offensively, I give us an A minus. The only reason I give us an A minus is the fumble and the one turnover worthy play. But if we didn't have the fumble, this would have been an A plus. I mean, the offense has come out the first two games, and I mean, I know the competition we're playing, but the offense has produced at a high level. But I have to give us an A minus due to the turnover, the fumble. The defense, I'm giving the defense a C minus. Uh, they made some sacks, they made some negative plays, but I have to give them a C minus. I mean, they held the team to 20 points. Here we are
Right.
complaining about. Here we are. Let's put this in preference. We're here. We are complaining about 20 points, right? That
Right.
Georgia Southern gave up, but it's not the points. Like I said, it's what we discussed in our number segment, right? That numbers
Now
can
you
be
said an
misleading.
A minus on offense and a C minus on defense.
Yes,
Okay.
A C minus on defense, and that's just because of all the chunk plays we gave up, the
Okay.
inability to be gap sound and keep gap integrity, and the inability that they ran the ball on us whenever they wanted to, and the chunk
Okay.
plays. So I have to give us a C minus overall. If the team got an A minus, the offense got an A minus, and the defense got a C minus, I have to go. I have to give the overall performance a B minus.
Okay.
I'm gonna average it out.
Okay. Okay. Now for me on offense, even though we did have the fumble, I want to go with an A plus. You want to know why? We put up
Why?
700 over 700 yards of offense total.
That's facts. That's a
Over
lot.
700 yards. That's
Yeah,
a
that's facts.
lot of yardage.
A
We
lot of
put
yards. No
over
matter who
and
you playing.
no
No matter
matter
who
who
you
you're
playing.
playing, you put up over 700 yards. You got to get that offense an A plus. We had over 300 yards on the ground, which when was the last time you saw a USC team rush for over 300 yards?
Man,
Right?
I want to say it was like 2014. I can't well let me not say because we want to be as accurate as
Right, right,
possible.
right, right, right.
I seen it, but I want to say it was 2014, but I'm not sure on that. So we'll get back to you guys on
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, yeah. So and Jay Maiava, continues to impress. But one of the more impressive people was I think he should get some more touches. We may, create another segment, later on. But King Miller. So you couple that with that offensive line and where they're, chugging along. I say an A plus on offense. Now for defense, I want to say a C minus. Um, sure, we got the four sacks. We got a couple TFLs. We did get a pick, but like you said, like everyone is pretty much saying we've been getting gashed in the run game. And if Georgia Southern could do this, if Missouri State could do this, what is Michigan going to do? What is Illinois going to do? Everybody's going to be looking at that tape now. Whether or not Lynn just doesn't want to show his hand and just been trusting the defense to pull things off with a vanilla package, that may be the case. But even with a vanilla package, considering our athletes against their athletes, that shouldn't be the case. So my overall team grade is going to be a B plus.
B plus.
B plus.
Hey. Hey, so we're kind of there together. B minus, B plus. To answer that question, the last time USC rushed for over 300 yards was November the 10th, 2018, against the University of California Golden Bears. So it's been a long time.
2018.
Yeah, it's been a long time. We're in 2025, so
7 years ago.
That's 7 years. That is 7 years ago. All right. Well, that wraps up our fourth down, and that wraps up our down segment. We definitely want to appreciate everyone stopping by as we recap again the game from yesterday, USC versus Georgia Southern. Like I said, guys, it's a win is a win. We taking all wins. We love it. USC put up 59 points. They beat Georgia Southern 59-20. We're definitely grateful for a win. But we just wanted to break down the game, kind of recap of what we seen and what was going on during the game. Again, we just want to give a special shout out and thanks everyone that stopped by yesterday while we was on live during the game and commented, shared your thoughts, even for the individuals that called in. We greatly appreciate it.
Shout out to Tobias for calling into the show.
Yep, Tobias, from East Atlanta, Tobias, definitely. We do it every Saturday. This week we'll be on at 2:00 Central. We'll be We'll be doing a quick 30-minute pregame. We'll go through our downs and some things, preparing a scouting report from what we've seen from Purdue and kind of what we expect to see in the game. We'll be going live at 2:00 Central. The game will start 2:30 Central time. It will be on CBS plus Paramount. CBS plus on Paramount. So the game will be on Paramount this week. If you guys don't have the game, please stop by. We'll be doing a live watch party, live updates, talking about what's going on with the game. And even if you have the game on, call in. We love to hear what you see schematically, what you think's going on, what you think we should do, and take your input and discuss the team, everything USC football. It's all the Trojan family. So we definitely appreciate everyone's support. With that, before we sign out, I'm going to pass it over to B for some closing words. Everyone, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share, and comment.
Yeah, everyone is welcome to this channel. The only thing we ask is that you guys be respectful. When you come onto the channel, you have to remember, it's more than men watching this channel. Sometimes we have young, impressionable minds that come by. So just be mindful when you're making your comments. We welcome any opponents. We had a couple. We had Oregon Duck fan stop on yesterday, but he didn't get out of line. He didn't say anything respectful. So we appreciate that. I don't know whether or not we had an Oklahoma fan. I can't remember.
We did.
We did. Okay,
Mr. 918.
Yeah, and again, shout out to Mr. 918. Shout out to Tobias for joining the live with us. And also, I want to give a special shout out to USCJ. You see me wearing my USCJ Lost in the Sauce. Go by his website. Again, that's USCJ Lost in the Sauce. He has a webpage up. He's selling his apparel, Lost in the Sauce. I think he has T-shirts and hats and mugs. So I want to give a special shout out to USCJ for sending by some of his listeners. But outside of that, that's all we have. Like Kristen said, join us on our live this upcoming Saturday as we take on the Purdue Boilermakers, 2 p.m. Central Time. We'll be going live, and then we'll invite some people once the game kicks off. But other than that, that's all I have.
All right. We appreciate everybody. Until next time, fight on.
Fight on.